Welcome. This is video 6 of the Assessing Risk of Significant Harm training course for child protection practitioners. Videos 5, 6 and 7 explore the legal concept of significant harm. They present the three components of harm, significance and likelihood, and how these are incorporated into Risk 2 and other tools. Video 6 looks at what makes harm significant. In video 5, we introduce the building blocks of risk assessment. In video 5, we started by asking, what is harm? And in this video 6, we ask, what makes harm significant? What makes harm significant? Significance is defined in the Children Act 1989, where the question of whether harm is significant turns on the child's health or development. The child's health or development is to be compared with that which could be reasonably expected of a similar child. This is in section 3110 of the Children Act 1989. So, significance is based on the child's health or development and how this compares with what would be expected of a similar child. What do you think about this definition? Would it help you make a clear, evidence-based decision about what is harm and what harm is significant? Could you determine how a child's health or development compares with a similar child? It leaves a lot of interpretation, and it also introduces several new phrases that will be interpreted by practitioners. These include compared, reasonably expected, and similar child. As you would expect with the most important legal concept in family justice, the definition of significant harm has been discussed in courts and case law has been developed. This has helped clarify the interpretation of the law in practice. This includes harm, which is significant, isn't something that is usual. Rather, it is unusual. It is something considerable, noteworthy, and important. During this course, you will hear reference to significance being associated with two things. These are the severity of the harm and the meaning associated with the harm. In Working Together 2010, it states pessimistically that there is no absolute criteria when judging significant harm. However, the same guidance develops very practical criteria related to the severity of harm. These indicators have been incorporated into the significant harm checklist. In paragraph 1.28 of Working Together, it indicates that one of the aspects of significance is the severity of the harm. We use the words severity and substantiality of harm to convey this aspect. The features of severity of harm include the degree and extent of the harm, the duration and frequency of the abuse, the extent of premeditation, a presence of threats, coercion, sadism, bizarre or unusual elements. These are noted as they are associated with how severe the effects are on the child and how much difficulty they will face in overcoming these. You will see these categories in Part 1 of the Significant Harm Checklist. The second section of paragraph 1.28 of Working Together reminds us that significant harm can be caused by a single event or a series of events including what is described long-term corrosive emotional abuse. However, it notes that the events have to be considered in light of the child's context, their resilience, strengths, and the ability of parents to change. So harm is in the context of the effect it has on a child. We can imagine that some events may have greater effect on some children than others. Case law has also introduced meaning or attribution as one of the features of significance. When lawyers are uncertain how a word should be used, they turn to dictionary definitions. There is a court case in Humberside County Court where the dictionary definition was used to illuminate the interpretation of significance. The dictionary definitions include having or conveying a meaning, full of meaning, highly expressive or suggestive, important, notable. And in another, the primary sense of significance is conveying a meaning or suggesting an inference. So, two elements associated with the significance of harm. First, substantiality or severity of harm from working together. And secondly, from case law, that significant harm has meaning, inference, or attribution. As an example of what is meant by additional meaning or inference, we use this story to illustrate the key points. A 6-year-old boy is on their bike. It is 6 p.m. on a winter's night, and he falls off his bike and breaks his arm. The harm is absolute. There is a fracture. If this happened in the presence of an adult who was supervising, and following the accident took the child immediately to A&E, there would be no additional meaning or inference to the harm. However, if the parent was absent, the child unsupervised, both parents incapacitated through drug use, and no one able to respond to the child's needs for medical attention, you would have additional meaning, additional context, or attribution to the harm. In that case, the harm would be substantial, as there was a broken bone, and you would have additional meaning related to the failure of the parents to protect, to keep the child safe, or be able to respond to their basic needs. To summarize, law tells us that significance is determined by comparing what would be reasonably expected of a similar child. Case law tells us it is unusual, noteworthy, considerable, and important. Case law also provides us with more practical interpretations. It is severe in its impact on the child. It has additional meaning, often related to the capacity of the parents to meet needs or to keep the child safe from harm. Exercise 3. What makes harm significant? Exercise 3 builds your understanding of significance. There are two key features of significance. This exercise explores these. Similar to exercise 2 in the previous video, it asks you to imagine the types of case scenario where you may be able to evidence the factors that make harm significant. Imagining the different scenarios you have created will help you relate this information to your own practice. From the Downloads page on the Practice Resource module, you will find a workbook to accompany this course. This exercise is in the workbook with instructions and an example of a short recording template for you to complete. You can pause the video in order to fill in your workbook. Significance is defined as having two components: substantiality or severity, and additional meaning or attribution. Please develop a case example from experience or from your imagination to illustrate these two features in a family. You may have an existing example from practice to record, or otherwise you should imagine the typical context where this may be identified. One of the aspects of significance is severity or substantiality of harm, which has an impact on the child. Please note the examples of features from working together used in Part 1 of the Significant Harm Checklist. Please write an account from experience or imagination that would illustrate severity or substantiality of harm. A short paragraph would be adequate. You can pause the video in order to fill in your workbook. One of the aspects of significance is additional meaning or attribution to the harm. This is often related to the capacity of the parents. Describe the harm caused to a child and what may give it additional meaning relating to the capacity of the parents to meet needs. The slide image is a parent's substance misuse problems that have been a causal factor in the child's neglect, and there is no prospect of change within the child's timeframe. Please write an account from experience or imagination that would illustrate additional meaning. A short paragraph would be adequate. You can pause the video in order to fill in your workbook. Reflect on the exercise you have completed. Were you able to describe some features in a family that would indicate severity and meaning? Which was easiest? Was it severity of harm? Why do you think that may be? Once you have worked through video 6 of the Assessing Risk of Significant Harm course, please progress to the next part, which is video 7. Video 7 is the last in the series of 3 videos looking at significant harm. Video 7 looks at likelihood.